Good morning, I'm Pastor Dustin Abbott from Emmanuel Lighthouse United Pentecostal Church, and I am here for your weekly devotion. Today's subject is what's your algorithm? And this message thought came to me during a week in which God really was directing through the Bible studies and the various speakers at our church. 3 different people were led by the Spirit to preach along some of the similar topics, addressing our thought life and sin and our actions that we take and how that God still cares about those things. And I was thinking about the reality of a world that has evolved in the sense that we clearly know that there is more tracking of us than there's ever been before. And no, I'm not going to dive off into some conspiracy deep end here today, but it's pretty obvious that at some point marketers realized that there was a whole unique avenue that was opening up when it was realized that people had a device that they had with them almost all the time that had location tracking information. And so it meant that they could now tailor advertising around where people went and where they were showing with their interest, along with their browsing habits. So put very simply, there is throughout our various devices, be it our phones or our tablets, our computers, there is ways where those that are using information, they can log where we visit, what our interests are. And as a byproduct, they're trying to share advertising with us and share content with us that is going to appeal to what our interests actually happen to be. So if there's someone that has shown that they have an interest in baseball, for example, and so their location shows that they regularly go to a baseball field, and their browsing habits show that they're looking at baseball gear. Well, very obviously a marketer is going to continue to market baseball related things to them because there's far more likelihood that they're going to be interested in that. They're going to click on those links and they're going to, at the end of the day, spend their money, which is how that all makes the world go round. But what really kind of hit me as a part of this is that I personally operate a YouTube channel. I'm a photographer and I write about photography and technology, and then I also produce videos that are shared on there. And as a process of visiting YouTube, in full disclosure, I don't actually go on YouTube a whole lot for myself. I'm there mostly for work, and I have quite a busy life, and so I don't have a lot of spare time where I'm just looking at random things on YouTube. But there is a landing page that you arrive on when you visit YouTube, and if you're logged in, just like the marketers will do, YouTube has an algorithm in which they are determining what your interests are, because they, just like all of these social media type platforms, their end game is that they want to keep you on their platform for as long as possible. And if you transition from one piece of content to another piece of content to another piece of content and so on and so forth, it gives them increasing time to put advertising in front of you, to connect you to the people that are making them money, and at the end of the day, to make they themselves money. And so on that landing page where you arrive at YouTube, it's going to show all of these different videos that are trying to appeal to you, to appeal to your interest. And unfortunately, what is shown on that page can tell a lot about a person. It can show that, for example, for a Christian that shouldn't be interested in those things, it might show too much of an interest in something extremely secular. It might show too much of an interest in some inappropriate type content. It might show that our eyes have drifted a little bit and are a little too interested in things that show a little more skin than what they should, and so on and so forth. Because YouTube, they're not really concerned about your morals or your values, but what they are concerned is what your interests are. What is your algorithm? What is the thing that is going to catch your eye and is going to bring you into their never-ending system of watching one video after another? And as a byproduct of this, obviously, I benefit on one end. If someone is interested in photography related content, there's a good chance that along the way, because I'm fairly popular, that YouTube is going to show them on that page a piece of my content. And the same is true for people that are doing pretty much anything else out there. But there's always a concern for me that I have to be careful, to know my own vulnerabilities, that I'm operating in a space where Satan also likes to operate. And as a byproduct, I have to be as Job, and I have to make a covenant with my eyes. Job said, I made a covenant with my eyes that I might not look upon a young maiden. What he was talking about is he had to hold himself in a disciplined state to where he was careful about what he put in front of his eyes, because he recognized a principle that Jesus would later elaborate on, and that is that when a man looks after a woman and lusts on her in her heart, it's as if he has committed adultery already. Already the mind is forming the conclusion where the body will act if given the opportunity. And so Job says, I'm making a covenant with my eyes. I'm making sure that I'm careful about what I allow my gaze to linger upon. David prayed, let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O God, my strength and my Redeemer. David obviously didn't always practice what he preached in that moment, but there was this fundamental desire in him that the things that he was thinking about, the things he was meditating on, the things that were capturing his gaze and his attention, he wanted those to be pleasing before God. And I believe that that's something we all have to aspire to. And so there has to be a shift sometimes in our life because it takes intention. Because the thing is that the world doesn't play fair. Even if you have never before shown an interest in something that is secular, something that is, seductive, something that would want to grab your attention. You see, the way that these algorithms work is that every now and then they throw in something that's outside the scope of your normal viewing practices because they want to see, just like a fisherman putting out a lure to see if you're going to catch that, because they know that there are certain types of content, we call it clickbait, that really gets people's attention. And if they follow one bit of clickbait, they're likely to follow another and then another and so on and so forth. And so every now and then, these social media platforms, they'll set out a lure. Maybe it's an advertisement that shows someone inappropriately dressed to see if you're going to click on that. Maybe it's a draw towards some kind of gambling content or something like that, just to see if there's any bit of interest. And here's the thing, all it takes is one click, and all of a sudden, a door has opened and a barrage of more of that same kind of content is going to be thrown in your direction. And so number one, it takes discipline. It takes discipline to say when the temptation is there, and all of us are tempted by something, but when that temptation comes, it is the ability to say, no, I'm not going to go there. And if you've struggled repeatedly with temptation, it may be, I'm just not going to go there at all. I'm going to disconnect from this wired world, and I'm going to go into a place where it's just me and God and me and God's Word, and recognizing that I'm extremely vulnerable and I'm not ready for that battlefield. But in other cases, even if you have failed and the barrage has come, there has to be an intentional effort to click on some of those things. There's an option on YouTube where there's 3 little dots there on the side. And if they start showing you something, trying to draw you in, you can click on that, and there's an option there that says not interested. And it's amazing, just after a few of those kind of clicks, things start to clear away. It's saying, no, I'm not going to take that bait. No, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. No, I am not open to that kind of content. It's an intentional choice because your flesh may say otherwise, but your spirit needs to say, I am not going to allow Satan any avenue into my life. Paul wrote that we are not ignorant of Satan's devices. And we live in a world where it's very easy to be ignorant of the fact that at the end of the day, it's not some social media company that ultimately benefits, but it is Satan who wants to destroy our souls by getting us drawn into a world that is going to feed the worst things in us and is going to begin to close down our minds towards God, purity, and the good things that we should be thinking about. Finally, we have to do as Paul said, and we have to meditate on the right things, the things that are pure, the things that are lovely, the things that are of a good report. And he says, if there be any virtue and if there be any praise, think on these things. Make an intentional choice about what your mind is thinking about. Make a covenant with your eyes, as Job did, that the algorithm of your life is not going to show a person who shows one face at church, but in private is pursuing after the world and after the flesh and after its lust. But rather let your algorithm say before God, Lord, I want the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart to be acceptable. I want them to please you. Make a covenant with your eyes today. And if you have failed in the past, Make up your mind that today things start to change and it's time to click not interested in the world and its devices. I pray that God's Word has given you some food for thought today and hopefully prompted a little bit of action. God bless you. Have a wonderful week.